Do men really get promoted much quicker in jiu-jitsu than women do? To be honest, this is something that I've never personally really thought about. That makes me very fortunate. I've had very great gym environments, but I recently found out that this is a topic that people have a lot to say about, so let's chat about it. So it all started when I received this comment a little over a month ago, and it's from a woman, and she says, I wonder if at 4 years I'll get a blue belt. She goes, I don't think you're being realistic with other women. I train 4 to 5 times a week. I've been competing for 4 years. I always say if you are a woman, add at least a year or two additional to each belt. Women minimum 2 to 3 years to blue. And I was kind of like, really? I kind of felt like she was generalizing women when I always just felt like your progression and promotions in jiu-jitsu are also individual because everybody's journey is so different. But I also realize that jiu-jitsu is not always the most wonderful, perfect place, just like anywhere else. So I headed to Instagram and I wanted to get everybody else's opinion and kind of see what their thoughts were and maybe some experiences that they've been through to really find out what's going on here. So I probably got close to 60 DMs with people talking about this and giving their opinions, which I thought was so great. And I would say 90% of people disagree and think this comment is a little extreme. There were definitely a few people that agreed to a certain extent, maybe not as extreme as this person was talking about. So that really led me to think, okay, maybe this is a really good topic to talk about because everybody has different experiences. So let's first dive into some of the DMs that I did get and some people's opinions and experiences. Someone says, my first gym, yes. Second gym, no. Somebody else says, how odd. Maybe it's her gym or something. It took me a little over a year to get to blue. Somebody else says, I got my blue at 2-ish years. I think it depends how you develop your skills. Somebody else says, I literally just had this conversation. I don't think it's intentional, but I do see it. Somebody says, I think it's probably retention of knowledge, not male or female. So now let's also go into the DMs about some of the people that actually kind of agree. One opinion was, not all places, but I could see a professor having poor values, but generally speaking, no. Someone else who shared their experience, I started at the same time as one of the guys. He's now purple. I'm only just blue. I do sometimes think guys get promoted sooner than ladies. I wouldn't say it's on purpose. Somebody else says, I agree, especially since coaches compare you to the other guys at your belt level. Someone else said, yes, this happened to me too. Men that trained less, competed less, trained less years than me would get promoted and I wouldn't, even if I was the one teaching them. So I think it's pretty clear that people have had different kinds of experiences with this, and I never realized that it was such a thing. I always just kind of naively thought the more work you put in, the more you keep showing up, the more you keep improving, and just the work that you put into jiu-jitsu, your coach will judge you and promote you and judge your progression based on you as an individual. I mean, that's how it should be. In an ideal world, we should all be promoted and judged and coached individually based on our own progress and our own journey within jiu-jitsu because we are all so different, living completely different lives. Everyone has a different size, weight, age, everybody's lifestyle is different, you know, whatever you got going on and how much you are committing to jiu-jitsu with what you have going on. That's just, I feel like that's how your promotion should be based on. And of course, without saying how much you're retaining knowledge, how much you're improving. For example, you cannot compare somebody who, you've got 2 blue belts, right? One is a 50-year-old guy. He's a dad of 3 kids. He's got a full-time job, and he started jiu-jitsu just to get into another exciting physical activity. That doesn't mean he doesn't improve. That doesn't mean he's not good or that he's not a tough training partner or that he's not committed to showing up throughout the week. His lifestyle is just a lot different than, say, a 20-year-old at the same rank who trains twice a day, competes every other weekend, and I don't know, maybe their main goal in life is to make it to ADCC. Very different jiu-jitsu journeys, you know what I mean? But the reality is that jiu-jitsu is not a perfect world, even though we like to imagine that it's this amazing magical bubble that takes us away from our reality. But there are poor gym environments, there are sucky coaches, and there are men that that don't value women in jiu-jitsu. That is just the truth. And what sucks is that the unfortunate experiences that you may encounter kind of alters your views on certain aspects of jiu-jitsu forever. I have one friend, she's a very good friend of mine, and we've been training for about the same amount of time. Maybe she's been training a little bit longer than me. And she messaged me in response to this comment, "I definitely feel professors do this. Men get promoted so easily," which is so interesting to me because she's one of my favorite people to train with, and we have really great experiences training now, but it kind of comes down to what she's experienced in the past, and now her views are kind of tainted on this particular area of jiu-jitsu. So kind of going off that idea that everybody has their own past experiences which can negatively affect how they view a certain aspect of jiu-jitsu. Somebody goes, "I will say, as women, we are commonly overlooked in the gym space. So some of these feelings may be valid, but adding a year or two just because you're a woman," she says, "no way." And this comment I really liked because we can absolutely validate everybody's feelings, but to put all women under this sort of general marker, I don't think is the right thing either. And then somebody else says, "I think there are plenty of coaches and gyms that don't support women. When treated fairly, we do well too." Yes, we do. And kind of going along that line, somebody else says, "Why is she deliberately discounting women?" Again, generalizing women, saying that just because of you being a woman, you should automatically add 1 or 2 more years onto each belt. To me, that's just, I don't know, that's really silly. I think it's almost encouraging this idea of sexism in jiu-jitsu. I don't know, it's like this person wants to stand up for women in jiu-jitsu, but at the same time is generalizing them, which is also not giving them any credit at the same time. My other last thoughts on this, and someone commented something kind of similar, which got me thinking like, maybe that is part of the reason that some women may get promoted slower, which, guys, is not always a bad thing. I think sometimes we get so focused on the belts and the promotions and the stripes, and that's really not what jiu-jitsu is all about. Of course, we are striving to hopefully one day get that black belt, right? But there's so many other things that we should be focusing on day to day when we're training, and not about when we're gonna get our next stripe and when we're gonna get our next belt. I mean, gosh, if I only focused on when I'm getting promoted, I could have quit a long time ago. I've been a purple belt now for 4 years. I have 1 stripe. I've been at my gym for 3.5 years, and my coach has only given me 1 stripe. Now, of course, I was out for a year, but all I'm trying to say is if you focus only on when you're gonna get promoted, it can be really, really easy to get discouraged and to just stop showing up. Anywho, so there was one comment that someone said, "I think it may be a correlation, not a cause," in reference to why some women may get promoted slower than men who are at the same level that they are at. And that got me thinking, do women sometimes get promoted more slowly simply because of what we do as women? The main thing, we get pregnant, so that takes us out for at least 9 months if you choose not to train while you're pregnant. The recovery time after you have the baby, and then of course actually raising babies. And I don't think anyone can argue that most of the time, a lot of that caretaking naturally falls onto women. So that's just one example of how just life and something that most women do can very easily take away from our training and our progression. So I don't really think there's a right answer to this. I do think that the person who made this comment was a little extreme. I think that, of course, her feelings are valid, but I do think that she was discounting women in general. In an ideal world, we would all be promoted based on how well we as individuals are doing in jiu-jitsu. In an ideal world, we would all have welcoming, encouraging, safe gym environments with fair coaches that genuinely care about each student. That's not always the case. So let's continue this conversation. If you have an opinion, then leave a comment and let us know what you think. If you've had some kind of experience where you feel like maybe you were a little bit slighted just because you are a woman, then leave a comment if you feel comfortable talking about it. I think it's always good just to keep the conversation going, keep chatting about these different topics that at one point or another rather most of us face in jiu-jitsu. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and until the next video, I will see you guys next time.